A është surrogacia një krim universal? Jemi këtu me Olivia Maurel nga Franca, e lindur përmes një nëne surrogate. Ajo është përfaqësuese e Deklaratës së Kasablankës. Në fakt, Deklarata e Kasablankës është nënshkruar në Marok në mars të vitit 2023 nga 100 ekspert nga 75 kombësi të ndryshme për të ndaluar praktiken e surrogacisë në nivel global. Është shumë kënaqësi të kemi këtu në këtë intervistë për Familja 7.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pyetja e parë ka të bëjë me historinë e jetës tënde. Ti ke lindur nga një nënë surrogate. Çfarë ndikimi pati kjo në jetën tënde kur ti e kuptove dhe kur ti e more vesh lajmin?
It started impacting my life when I was a little girl because I was struck with the trauma of abandonment to begin with. Because once you separate a newborn from its mother, unfortunately, you break that bond, and that bond is broken for the rest of your life. So I was a little girl that was very anxious, I was terrified every time someone would leave me. I grew up very nervous, and I had a hard time also with friendships. My life as a young girl was difficult, and then I sunk, unfortunately, into drugs, into alcohol, and things went downhill from there. So during my adolescent years, I went through an identity crisis as well, because I didn't know who I was, I didn't know where I came from, I didn't know who my mother was, and so I had a hard time shaping who I was wanting to be. And I guess it's not until I was 30 years old that I started really talking about surrogacy and how it impacted me, because it takes a lot of time and therapy to try and talk about the subject out loud. It's very difficult to speak about it out loud.
Olivia, si mendon, çfarë problemesh pra në term më të gjerë ekspozon surrogacia?
There's so many issues that surrogacy exposes. Surrogacy is a problem in itself. It's a global problem. It's unethical in many ways. I'd say for the child, the worst part is losing your mother at birth, like I said, the trauma of abandonment. It's also our identity that's completely stolen because we fake the identities of the children that are born through surrogacy. And we have a right to know our origins. And also the fact that as a child, you are treated as a commodity. You are an object that is used in a transaction. You are sold, you are bought. And for a long time, that has haunted me. So, it was very difficult to live with that, knowing that I was worth a price, knowing that I was worth a lot of money. And that actually stopped me from speaking out loud to my parents because I felt like I owed them my life. So that's on the child's point of view. On the woman's perspective, it's the same thing. Women are treated as commodities. They're treated as incubators, as vessels, as things. They're reduced to reproductive slaves. They are, in a contract, when you read a surrogacy contract, it's scary. They aren't allowed to travel. They aren't allowed to drink what they want to drink. They can't take over-the-counter drugs. They can't have intimate relations with their husbands. There's so many horrible things in surrogacy, and we can't let a multi-billion-dollar market use women and children to grow.
Kur dhe si erdhi ai momenti final që të shtyu për qenë pjesë e aktivizimit, për qenë një zë i fuqishëm kundër surrogacisë?
It wasn't until I started seeking out medical treatment and therapy, especially when I started talking to a therapist and started unraveling all my traumas, that I started talking. So I think it was in May 2023, I started talking about surrogacy online, actually on TikTok, because I was too afraid to talk to my parents about it, because I was afraid of losing them. So I started talking about my story, and then I had so much anger in me, and anger against governments, not my parents, of course, but against the governments that allow surrogacy to happen, that I just kept going, and eventually I joined the Declaration of Kasablanca and became their spokeswoman, and that was in November 2023. And since then, I never stopped.
Çfarë sfidash ke hasur duke folur kundër surrogacisë, sidomos në një botë ku ka shumë vende që e promovojnë këtë praktikë?
Okay, I have faced a lot of insults, a lot of death threats, a lot of threats against me, my family. It's been difficult in that way, especially when it touches my family and my children. So that's been difficult. I've got a lot of criticism as well. I don't really care. That's social media. It happens all the time. But I guess the pressure from the pro-surrogacy lobby is so strong and they're so powerful that they try to bring you down in any way, shape, or form. And I guess that's the hardest part.
Olivia, ju I keni dërguar një letër të hapur autoriteteve shqiptare për të ndaluar projektligjin për surrogacinë.
I thought with this intervention that at least someone in the government would reach out and listen to us, listen to what we had to say, listen to the downsides of surrogacy. Because I mean, I've been traveling around the world a lot, and I've met ministers, I've met parliamentaries, and to be honest, practically no one knows what surrogacy really is. No one's read a contract, no one's talked to a surrogate mother, no one's talked to me. I mean, these people don't know what they're doing and they're creating laws. So I thought with this letter that at least someone in the government would reach out and talk to us about it and try to understand what is wrong with surrogacy. But unfortunately, nothing happened.
Ka pasur ndonjë përgjigje, ka pasur ndonjë reagim nga autoritetet shqiptare?
Absolutely not. I've received no response. They haven't responded. And it's unfortunate, very unfortunate, because if they really knew what surrogacy was, they would never pass this law, because it presents such a threat to women and young girls in this country.
Për aq informacion dhe për aq sa jeni në dieni, si e shikoni Shqipërinë në raport me ndërgjegjësimin për surrogacinë?
No, I think there is absolutely no awareness of what the risks are in surrogacy. I do believe that people aren't aware of what surrogacy really is. I think our job is to go and to talk to Albanians, citizens of this country, maybe in young citizens as well, in universities, for example. We have to talk to ministers, we have to talk to parliamentaries, we have to start talking about surrogacy and the truths about surrogacy. Unfortunately, Albania is a good prey for the surrogacy market because women need money. This country, unfortunately, has a very, very, very low minimum wage, and it's an easy target for the surrogacy market.
Çfarë mund të thoni, cili është mesazhi juaj për ata që e shohin surrogacinë si një mundësi për të patur fëmijë?
I always say I understand people that cannot have children. I understand their pain. I don't blame them. I can understand that wanting a child we want a child. We want to have children. We are human beings. It's in our genes. It's in our gut to want to reproduce. However, we can't step on the rights of children and women for our desire to procreate. There is no right to have a child. So I guess for these people, I know it's unfortunate that you cannot have children, but it's not a reason to override the rights of women and children.
Pra në përfundim të kësaj interviste, ju besoni se surrogacia është një krim universal?
Yes, I do believe it is a universal crime, and I do believe that states have to start banning surrogacy within their country and banning their citizens from going abroad and coming back with a child, just like they did in Italy. They made it a universal crime, and I think that is the best way to stop surrogacy. Of course, we have to add an international treaty on top of that to stop surrogacy completely.
Olivia, të falenderoj për këtë intervistë, faleminderit që ndave zemrën me ne dhe për çdo gjë që na the sot. Shumë suksese për ty.
Thank you so much for having me.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you.